This isn't my story, but a story about a house. The House of Forking Paths. Many years after I was transferred here, I could finally grasp its function. I travelled back and forth in time. She showed me many of her possible futures, me being one of them. She introduced me to her first occupant. I even saw parts of her pasts that never happened. She was laid out as an old city, where streets and paths led to squares. The main square was easy to locate. All paths led to it. From here, all other squares could be observed. Tall openings in the walls framed the views into the other squares, creating infinite space. If I make a step, the picture in the frame changes. If I go further, the room disappears into whiteness. I've spent most of my days in this involuntary prison, strolling from one square to the other. Here I was provided with more than one possible way. I walked through her stairs, which led to openings. They led to squares, which had more openings, which led to streets. This place has been planned and built to host many people. Their residue was in every room and in every staircase. Every time I wandered round, I had the feeling I was wandering in an empty city, where a person might be around the corner. I would then get tired and would sit in the room surrounded by windows. It was the only space that stuck out from the house. I would turn my back to the shadows and let the garden envelop my gaze. When it gets dark, the windows would reflect the inside of the house and would force me to return to it. Presently, I know a lot more about the house. I've learned how to live in it, or with it, before I could go mad. It is of great importance for the next occupant to read my notes. They would help them to not lose their mind. I write as a guide and companion for this lonely place. I am now sitting in the living room on a big sofa as I write down all that happened. It is getting dark outside, and the only sources of light are a candle on the table and a fire behind me. The window to the garden gradually turns into a mirror with the coming of the night. Looking to the right allowed me to see, through the main square, to a third empty room, with a table and chairs. I could see myself sitting, or to be more precise, I remembered sitting a few months ago on one of these chairs when it all started. I was overwhelmed with exasperation after a chase of shadows. I am tired of all this. My voice echoed in the empty space. What are you trying to show me? She remained silent. With a sigh, I stood up with the idea to go to the upper floor and rest there, away from the crowd. I entered the main square and walked towards the stairs, which for my convenience were turned against me. I climbed the first 3 steps and was led to the left. On the landing, I passed by the living room. As I kept climbing, the ceiling got lower, and the space around me narrower. I felt being led up by the house and could not think of returning down. On the next landing, again, I turned left and started climbing the 3rd flight. In the meantime, through the opening between the stairs and the 1st floor, I saw how the lower part of the house rapidly started to fill up with water, as grass and plants emerged from the ground. In one breath, I climbed the rest. Following the staircase, I bent right and emerged on a huge open area. To my astonishment, the construction of the upper floors was gone to leave the plumbing system open. Different types of pipes extended through the open space, disappearing in the floor to emerge again, somewhere else. I remembered about the water and quickly turned back to the staircase. The water has stopped at the last step. I was curious to see what happened on the lower floor. It was impossible for the construction to keep the water inside, so I took my shoes and socks off and started the way back.